a dip in your hip, a glide in your stride. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe, with shows throughout the week. Everything you want, everything you could need. From the paranormal to the supernatural, from the spiritual to the unknown, from emotions to comedy. You can find us at Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and so much more. This is R.I.F.T Nation Network, the RNN. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
Welcome, everybody. Come on in. I hope everybody's happy and warm and safe and away from the rain and the snow on this lovely Monday evening. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Lee. Welcome to Mysteries Beyond the Scenes, another power-packed episode of The Missing Mysteries and whatever else we want to chat about, right, fellas and girls? Hello, Miss Linda. How are you? I hope everything's going well for you. And while I have Miss Linda up, we have Linda's group that she does have her Facebook group, A Place of Solace. It is a Facebook group for those who have a missing loved one and would like to find a safe and private, wonderful group. Please join Linda's group. And I hope everybody's having a great Monday. You know, Lee had told me about the Smiley Face Killers. The Smiley Face K. I have to watch what I say. The Smiley Face Ks. A while back. And then I guess about 3 weeks ago, my son said, have you ever looked into the Smiley Face Ks? And I said, that sounds familiar. Somebody talked to me about it. And then I text Lee and I said, did you talk about this to me? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, well, my son was talking about it as well, because apparently, and as we get more into this story, if you have not heard about this, the accidents, the so-called accidental drownings that have occurred all around America. We are up in the victims are up in the hundreds. They all match pretty much the same description, college age, male. This is very unusual. Males, all athletic, all apparent accidental drownings. Well, we have to do it in regions. And I'm going to show you guys as we get into this story a little bit more. But I wanted to show you all a case that has grabbed the attention of the country this week for those of us in true crime. And I wanted to touch base and show you all a little bit of the astrology and how it worked out with Savanah, Matthew, and Baby Fabian in San Antonio, Texas. Hi, Miss Tammy. Welcome. I hope you all are good. Hi, Sir Keith. Hope you're doing well, hon. And just as a reminder, tonight at 8 o'clock, I will be joining Keith for the new moon, the first new moon of the year. It's in Capricorn. It's a great new moon, new vibe, new energy, new intentions. So join us for the Otter's Den at 8. But to get back to our story, like I said, this case, and for those of us in true crime, this case gripped us in the United States, actually worldwide. As you can see, there's a picture of young Savanah and her live-in boyfriend Matthew, and she was 9 months pregnant with baby Fabian. On December 21st, they basically went missing, and she was to be induced to have baby Fabian on December 22nd. They were missing in their for about 3 or 4 days, possibly, in the San Antonio area. Well, they were found. Unfortunately, Savanah and Matthew were victims of gunshot wounds to the head, and little Fabian did not survive as well. So, needless to say, like I said, this has gripped all of the true crime community. It's just such a senseless, sad, tragic story. But I wanted to show you guys very quickly before we get into the Smiley Face show segment, the actual astrology charts of what happened to Savanah and Matthew and the baby. Oh, it's beyond sadly. It's heart-wrenching. So what had happened is, on the warrant, nobody knew what time they had gone missing. They allegedly somebody had seen them on December 22nd. No, it was the 21st. There really wasn't a timestamp. So there wasn't a lot I can do without an accurate timestamp, as you all know, with forensic astrology. Well, sure enough, the arrest warrant, they found a father and a son, and they were ultimately arrested for the homicides. So I went off of the warrant. What's very interesting is, at 11:50 p.m. on the night of December 21st, the police found her phone where she had Googled where the perps would lived, on what street. They were into some kind of nefarious activities, so to speak. They weren't, good activities. So they were going over to a person's house for some business that they had done. So at 11:50, the warrant says she Googled. So I thought, okay, 11:50, I will Google that. Well, sure enough, as you can see on the chart, look in the third house. I pulled up Asteroid Fabian. Asteroid Fabian was the name of her baby. Asteroid Fabian is right next to Venus, which is Savanah. That's the female. So, make a long story short, we see on the chart that there's different timestamps. 11:50 she Googled. At 11:54, at 11:59 is when more than likely is when the accident occurred. Not accident, but the actual shooting occurred. And right at that moment on the chart, you can notice I put with the green arrows, the ascendant hits 22. I talk about 22 all the time as the malefic. 22 and 18 pretty much will show us death, or something's not right with an 18 or a 22 degree. So as you can see in the third house, we have Fabian is at 22. So by then, baby Fabian is probably passed over, I would assume. The violence was with a gun with Mars. They were at the home of a father and a son. If you look down at the bottom, the fourth house is the home. The sun is the father. Mercury is the child. They were at home. You can see up on the descendant, that's the perps. It's drug related. And the eighth house, the north node is up there at 22. It's pretty telling, isn't it? I just thought, Yes. And Tammy, thank you so much. Please hit the like button, share out. So I mapped it. So I added our ascendant and our IC. Remember, end of matter, womb to the tomb is the 4th house. So check this out. Down at the bottom, let me, hi, Howie. How are you, hon? Howie's saying hello to everybody. Hello, Hitman Odell. Okay, so here you can see on the chart, house with the red pin down on the bottom left. I added 22. 22 is 44.44 miles. The Uranus line, which is a fast, chaotic, accidental, not accident, but shocking event occurred right at the Uranus line at exactly 0.44 is the perp's house. No, my bad. The perp's house is down at the bottom. That's where they found the car with Savanah, Matthew, and Baby Fabian. I thought it was pretty phenomenal. I mean, it can't really get too much accurate than that. So it went right to the apartment complex where they did find them located in the vehicle. So our prayers go out to both families of Savanah and Matthew. You know, it's a tragic accident for these young people, these very, very young people. So, but you know, again, the astrology is spot on. It's just absolutely mind-boggling to me. Never fails to amaze me. And I'll tell you a little tidbit. As you all know, I talk about Kirsty McIntosh all the time, who actually is my mentor. She's from Australia. She actually worked up this case as well using the 22nd. I used the 21st. She used the 22nd. We used different timestamps that we had. They both showed up exactly where the car went on 2 separate timestamps, 2 separate days. They both showed up. Now you tell me that's a coincidence. I flipped out. So just to give you guys a little tidbit on that case. Now let's get started. And I know, Lee, I was in this rabbit hole. I've been in this rabbit hole for 2 weeks on the Smiley Face case. If you notice on this map, there are quite a few accidental drownings that have occurred. And if you look on the map, it actually is almost making a smiley face. It's kind of cringe, a little creepy, very creepy. So where did this start? Where did the Smiley Face case begin? Accidents or homicides? Now for decades, and I mean this is decades, the similarities for the victims are the same. College age, athletic, they were all isolated, walking by themselves. They were leaving clubs or bars. They were walking. Their bodies were found as victims, which they have called accidental drownings. Now, some of them have been deemed homicides, but the majority are accidental drownings. Hundreds. I'm not talking 5. Hundreds. We are up in the hundreds right now. Hundreds of drownings, and then within weeks or months after they have disappeared, they are found. Now, this is what is sparking a new interest in this situation. Recently, in 2022, there were 11 around Lake Michigan and the Chicago area. Okay. Now, in 2023, they have found 4 in Lady Bird Lake in Austin. What is going on? Now, where do we get the smiley face? There is always a smiley face spray paint at where the person is found or near where they went into the water. But law enforcement is saying this is coincidental. I'm going to beg to really differ on this. It's my opinion. It's my opinion. There's too many weird things. So how did this all, who is investigating this? How did this Smiley Face K come to light? Well, in 1977, the death of Patrick McNeil, who was recovered in a New York harbor, there was a new NYPD Detective Gannon believed that there was evidence that pointed to a possible homicide. After investigating, Gannon and his partners, Gilbertson and Duarte, found that the location spanned throughout the country. They were all over the place. They began to uncover many similarities of so-called accidental drownings from Chicago to PA to New York. All successful young men, all educated young men, all athletic, young college-age men found in water, some with alcohol in their bloodstream. But what was more revealing evidence was that the presence of the date rape drug. And the smiley face appeared near where the body was found or where it had gone into the water. And one of our victims tonight was the captain of the swim team. Okay. I mean, now the detectives have taken this further. Now, Gannon has since retired and has now they feel that this is an organized gang of criminals operating on the dark web. They actually feel like they have gotten into the dark web where this is playing out. Despite law enforcement saying these are accidental, many of the families certainly do not believe this. And now with an upsurge again, our question is, are they accidents? Are they homicides? What's going on? So I randomly wanted to take a look at 3 accidental drownings in the Pittsburgh, PA area. One is not, they're close to Pittsburgh area. They're all in Pennsylvania. So I think next week, due to time restraints, because there's a lot to uncover with this, we'll look at the 23 cases, some of the 22 cases, and then some of the other cases. Because what's funny is I've got one person that disappeared in 2016, okay? And another one in 2014. And another person, Tommy Booth, disappeared in 2008. All of the event charts came up with a Libra rising and an Aries as the perp, if there was a perp. So out of 12 zodiac signs that could possibly be the ascendant or the rising that would indicate the person that accidentally drowned, they all had the same ascendant. Now, I found that maybe I was just kind of letting my imagination go by with me, but I don't think so. Now, this is Dakota James. Now, he disappeared in 26. Now, 2 weeks prior, this was interesting, and I think this is very key to Dakota's disappearance. 2 weeks prior to Dakota's disappearance, he got a hold of a friend, and said, I don't know where, he called her. I don't know where I am. I'm so cold. Please help me. I'm lost. She said he was cold. He was disoriented. He was scared. He was wandering around the streets of downtown Pittsburgh trying to find anybody that would help him. So his friend Shelley didn't hesitate. She thought, did he get mugged? Did he get beaten up? Was he in a car accident? She said, where are you? I'm coming. He said, Pittsburgh's north side. She hopped in and she used her cell phone to figure out and enabled the location services as to find where Dakota was. Now, this is very, very important. When she finally pulled up to him, there was an SUV that he was headed towards. She screamed for him, and he came and quickly hopped in her car. He was in the actual south side of Pittsburgh. He wasn't in the north side. So 2 weeks prior to his disappearance, okay, this happened. She got there in less than 10 minutes, arriving around 11:30. She saw a dark SUV in the wrong lane facing the wrong direction. And Dakota was walking out of a hotel and straight towards the SUV. He wasn't slurring his words. He was walking a straight line. He was crying, scared. He did not appear to be drunk. So when she questioned Dakota the next day, he said, "Oh, I just have a hangover." But then he couldn't remember anything about what had occurred. So was he being stalked the weeks before he disappeared? Would he have vanished that night had Shelley not thought quick enough to say, "Oh, I can ping his location and find him"? So, I think it's very interesting to hear that side story about Dakota. So 40 days. Now, here we go. In March. Here we go. Here's Dakota's missing poster. What happened to Dakota? Okay, Dakota was out for an evening with his friends to a bar, and he just disappeared. That's what has happened with all of these cases. They're either walking, they leave the bar. There's no explanation. They're like I said, they're isolated. So he disappeared. What happened to him? We have one camera footage of Dakota, his last known image, apparently on his phone. Not seen since. So on March the 6th, 2017, 40 days after Dakota disappeared, a woman walking her dog saw a body floating in the Ohio River 10 miles from where he was last seen in downtown Pittsburgh. And that was on a January night at 11:49 p.m. Now, he was 30 feet from the river. His death was ruled accidental, but a team of retired detectives, which is Gannon and all that group, believed he's one of the 100 victims of the Smiley Face case. An additional 250 cases may be connected to these young men disappearing. I had no idea this was going on. Not to this extent. Not to this extent. Now, Dakota fits the profile. Smart, athletic, popular, college age, white men who went out drinking and never came home. It's remarkable. Now, what's funny is when they find these victims weeks later, whether their bodies are discovered in a lake or rivers, the smiley face graffitis show up. They've connected about 70 of the deaths with the graffiti nearby. That's not a coincidence. At least 30 to 40 of the men have had the date rape drug in their system. Now, what happened is James's body. Now, I'm going to give a little trigger warning here because I think this is very important information, but it's kind of where we usually don't get into where we talk about stuff. However, when he was found, his body was not decomposed enough to have been in the water for 40 days. His body, undamaged despite traveling 10 miles downriver underneath a concrete and steel dam to get where it was found. Somebody used his PayPal account 2 days after he vanished. There appeared to be ligature marks around his neck. Okay. So this again, he's ruled accidental drowning. Okay. That's Dakota. So I'm going to go through what we'll do is, what is his chart show? Let's see. Okay, let's take one quick look at Dakota's chart. Okay. There's our Libra over to the right. We've got Aries, as you all know. Fifth house would have been the bar, the actions of the person involved are the third house. That tells us what they were doing, what they were up to. Dakota is represented in yellow. The perp is represented, if there is a perp, represented in green. Saturn would represent the body in the third house. There's a lot of activity going on around them. With Mercury, it looks like a lot of people think that they were kidnapped, taken, and then subsequently homicide occurred later on down the road. Then the body was dumped about 2 weeks later. We don't know. That's speculation. There's always the sun appears a little fishy in all of these charts, which represents an older man. And of course, everything in purple are bodies of water, large bodies of water, which was right in front of Dakota with Jupiter there. So I'm trying to put all of the charts together to come up with a pattern, which is what I'm going to do next week. So we'll go through these cases. I'll kind of show you the chart. I'm going to map them and see if they show up where the body was retrieved. And also, what are the other characteristics, if any, that match with the charts. Okay. So that's little Dakota. Next person. Okay, here we go. I just said, okay, all three PA victims had Libra as the victim, Aries as the perp, if there was a perp. Okay. Now Dakota, you can look this up, the Dakota James Foundation. It's what his parents have put out there for Dakota. He went missing. Look at this. Full-time college to earn his master's degree in the city he loved. Active in swimming, running, biking, loved music and dancing. So what is going on with these young men there? And actually what had happened is this bridge had been painted right prior to his disappearance. Okay, that's one of the graffiti marks. Okay, so let's look at our next disappearing person. And we're going to run through these, like I said. And I'm going to try to put some patterns with the charts together. Now, Paul Kochu was an intensive care RN. He had just started a job working as a nurse in the intensive care department. On December 15th, 2014, he and his roommates went to Monday Night Football at Smoking Joe's on December 15th, 2014. Okay? Now, the thing about Paul's story has a little bit of inconsistencies that made me question, was he a victim of the Smiley Face case or not? Because I don't see how... I don't know. I don't see how you could say all of these are accidental. However, some things came out with Paul's case that were a little odd. So the roommates left. Paul went home, called the roommates and said, I've cut my hand. I need help. They went to where they lived. There apparently seemed to have been an altercation. Now, there's a lot of inconsistencies in a lot of this story with Paul. The roommates said, they had gone to McDonald's. Following that, at 2:30 in the morning, when they got home, Paul was gone. So we do have a picture of Paul. This is the last caught on camera photo or camera of Paul. The surveillance video also shows that the roommates were at McDonald's at 2:30. So that story jives. This is probably the last image of Paul alive. And in the video, he's clearly having trouble walking. You can see that. It seems like his mother said she feels that Paul was hurt. Okay. So there was just no trace of him. He ended up in the river, somewhere between where he was last seen on Wharton Street and the 10th Street Bridge in Pittsburgh. For weeks, the family traveled to and from Pittsburgh, no answers. Now, 94 days after Paul disappeared, 85 miles downstream with several locks and dams and shallows in between, Paul's body was found in the water. And now he had injuries. He had 3 fractured ribs, a wound to his scalp. And again, his death was ruled undetermined freshwater drowning. The parents aren't buying it. The roommates allegedly took polygraph tests. The family says one passed, the other was inconclusive. However, none of the stories seem to be adding up with Paul's disappearance. There's a lot of similarities if we just look at the victims. Successful, athletic, young. He played baseball, professional, good boy. Okay, so let's take a look. Now, here's Paul's chart. It is very similar. If we looked at Dakota's, remember, the third house was lit up again. So, I'm going to put them all together. Was he found with the drug in his system too? Not that I'm aware of, but I'll double check that, Linda. I do not think so. Our last one, Tommy was. Okay, Tommy Booth was. I'm not sure if Paul was or not. He was found with definite injuries to his body. He had the cut on his finger. Another questionable accidental drowning. Tommy Booth. Tommy went missing on January 19th, 2008 from Woodland, PA. 2 weeks later, Tommy was found in a creek behind the bar where he went missing. He had been missing for 2.5 weeks. Now, he was found near the shore of a creek behind the bar that he had visited the night he went missing. His body was found in rigor mortis and only showed mild decomposition. Now, again, trigger warning. Rigor mortis sets in within a couple of hours. It then goes away after 20 some hours. But he was found it was in the process of that, which means he was found 14.5 days later. Fishy, red flag. He showed no skin slippage or discoloration, which is one of the effects of being in water. Okay. Tommy's coworker helped with the search and went up and down the entire creek bed, and he says Tommy was not there. His uncle said the people that Tommy knew were involved in illegal dealings, but that doesn't tell us much. They believe that he exited the back door, but he was at a strip mall, so why didn't he exit through the front door? Okay. A smiley face graffiti was found underneath the bar. Again, he was found with money, credit cards, and ID, but his cell phone was missing. Like the other cases, he was isolated, became separated from his friends, and the smiley face was found near the site where the body was recovered. So, once again, we have a situation where there's very little decomposition. There's hardly any water in the lungs. And it's just very, very sketch at this point. Now, this is the 3 from Pittsburgh that I chose to look at. It's difficult when we have a missing person case where it's been 2008, 2014. It's hard to get a timestamp. That's why I'm hoping we can get a few more answers with the Austin, Texas victims in 2023, and then the Chicago 2022 will be able to have timestamps because there's going to be a lot more camera activity. We're going to be able to probably get a lot more information where we can pin down a better timestamp. Okay, Tommy was seen going into the bar. Tommy was never seen exiting the bar. So it's quite a something to really, in the true crime community, to kind of wrap your head around, that there are hundreds of young men that are all around the same age, all white, college age young men, athletic build, very, very similar physical attributes. And, the date rape drug is just very frightening. There's a lot of other things that you can, there's really a lot. You can find the detectives. They give you some really good YouTube information, good videos if you want to kind of catch up. But I'm going to continue with the charting, and I'm going to put it all together for us. Okay, here is Tommy's chart. Again, we have a Libra rising. When we have a Libra rising, it usually can indicate that two people may have been involved. It's a dual sign, just like Gemini. Gemini, we always think, oh, two involved. If you notice on Tommy's chart, the sun is active as well, okay? Uranus is right up there. All three of these charts, like I said, even though they are in different years, although they're all in January, so we can have very similar planet action at the same time, it's very sketch of the activities that occurred. So here we'll get to the chat and get some of your comments. Linda says, it's odd to me that so many similarities. Do you know if these cases are handled locally or if no, the FBI, I think this is what is so frustrating for so many of these families is when the coroner or their deaths are ruled accidental drowning. That's it. There's no further investigation. Now, we do have the retired detectives from New York that they look at all of this, that it's like been their passion. So Tammy, when you get time, look at the videos and photos at the scene where they were found. You'll see a man that always shows up. He's not search and rescue. It's interesting. Tammy says, I would think that Ellie would have noticed that. Now, Lee is saying that if you look at some and do some further research, that Ellie would have noticed that there's a particular man that seems to show up when all of these things occur. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And we'll have to look at that. Now, that man, an older man, shows up in all of the astrology charts. Could that be the detective? Doubt it. I would be looking for an older man. And you know what's funny is when 8, 9, the 9th house, which is up at the top of the chart, the 9th house is higher education, colleges. I would look, there's a lot of the things that I'm going to do a chart, like not a chart like this, but maybe like some kind of like an Excel sheet that shows what similarities are with what victim. For example, the 9th house is packed. The 3rd house, which we know rules the activities of the victim. That gives us an idea of did they travel? Were they on foot? Were they in a car? Were they in the neighborhood? It's communications. The 3rd house can glean a lot of information from us. Now, in Tommy's case, was it somebody a professor, somebody older? Is it somebody that's associated with a college, with higher education? could be a priest, it could be church. It's just very, very interesting to have all of these facts and all of these charts kind of put together. Again, the yellow represents Tommy. Okay. The perp is represented by Mars. Uranus again is in striking distance. We have Neptune that shows up, which would be the drug. Tommy is represented by the yellow, the moon and Venus, because Libra is the rising. So Venus is his ruler. It's just very interesting. So I'm going to keep digging away at this because that's what we do here. So you guys, in between now and next week, take a look at I don't think mine keeps stopping. I'm not stopping on my end. I don't think so. Does it show in the astrology that the sun would always represent an older man? Yes, the sun would represent an older man. We have, like everybody else in the country, we're starting all that wind, and we're going to have the storms hit us, I think, tonight. So it might be my internet, but I don't think so. I've got all the bars are showing up. So, and Lee is 100% correct. The college would lose money if Ellie announced a serial. But in Austin, people are really getting the word out. Getting the word out. Yes, the sun is always a male. It's always an older man. Yes, in forensic astrology. Yes. Hope that answered your questions. Okay, thank you. Okay, from Miss, we're going to keep on this, Lee. This is, it's hard to do. What has to happen for law enforcement to reopen these cases? Are they just writing them off because of the drugs? I don't know. That's a very good question, Linda. I don't know. And unfortunately, you can imagine that the families are going out, they're hiring other pathologists to look at, and the pathologist is saying, no, I don't think this is accidental. That's what would be very disheartening. But I'm not sure, and that's a good question, ruled accidental drowning, sorry. And what would you do? But I think with this upswing and this uptick of the Austin cases and the Chicago cases last week, we're going to get some more traction on this. Yes, could be. It could also be a minister up in that area. The ninth house could be churches. It could be higher mind. It could be education. It could be college professor. You just don't know. We're going to try to see if we can come up with a pattern. I think something, especially with a serial information, a pattern. They think it's dark web. Let's pull up Black Moon Lilith on these charts and see if she shows up. I would think Black Moon Lilith would be, and Pluto are associated with the dark web. Okay, watch the Oxygen series. They show the autopsy photos of Dakota. Okay. Ugh. That would be tough, though. And from Tammy, I don't think it's Ellie as to closing everything. They probably don't want to mess up the investigation. This investigation, though, has gone on for decades. Decades. These men and their families need justice. Absolutely, they do. I say chaplain. Could be, we don't know. And, another thing is, I think it's important to get the word out, because this is happening in Austin right now as we speak around Lady Bird Lake. Get the word out to young men. Don't walk by yourself. There's one thing you can do. Don't leave your drink down on a bar. in case somebody's putting something in your drink. And for crying out loud, don't walk by yourself, at least while this is going on. So I think it's very important for them to get the word out. They could say, we don't think it's a serial, but let's side on precaution. So that's it for this week, friends. I'm sorry, Miss Tammy, you're down there with all those storms. She's down in Texas. I think we're fine up here. I'm not going in and out. I'm not getting the ball or anything. I'm sorry, Miss Tammy. So stay tuned, you guys. I'll be back here at 8 with Sir Keith. All the things women have been told to do. These men really need to watch these things too. Absolutely. Don't leave your drink on the bar. Remember when your mom would tell you that? When we would go out, carry your drink with you. Never leave your drink unattended. That's all I would ever hear. I hope you keep everything good. Yes, I hope everybody stays good weather this week. Everybody stay safe. We're all getting hit with something, whether it's rain, snow, tornadoes in Florida. Everybody stay safe. And I will see you all next week. So thank you for tuning in and tuning in at 8 for the Otter's Den, everybody. Thanks so much and have a great week, everybody. Talk soon. Bye now. Thank you.